President Trump tweeted yesterday, DACA is probably dead because the Democrats don't really want it. They just want to talk and take desperately needed money away from our military. Well, if they don't get a deal protecting Dreamers, Democrats have threatened to hold up spending in the, of course, government funding bill, and it's needed by midnight on Friday to avoid that shutdown. So will the president call their bluff? Let's bring in Republican Congressman Sean Duffy in Wausau, Wisconsin, and Democratic Congressman Darren Soto in Orlando. Congressman Soto, I want to start with you, and I want to thank you for coming on the show. And I want to tell you that we make a real effort every day to get Democrat congressmen on and give them a fair chance, just like with Republicans, to make their case. I just want to say thank you. So thank you for joining us. Sean,
my pleasure being here.
Sean, I'm used to seeing you, so it's fine. No, I'm just kidding. I'm totally kidding.
Thanks,
Congressman Soto, let's start with you. Will the Democrats really hold up the government funding for a deal for the DACA people?
You know, we're hopeful that this is a moment where the parties can work together. We have Graham and Durbin who've come out with a bipartisan plan, including border security as well as help for our Dreamers. And we're hopeful that the Senate will lead the way and put a bill out that will go to the House floor and that Speaker Ryan will give us an opportunity to be able to vote on it so that we're not talking about shutdowns, but coming up with a generational deal to help out with two issues both parties care about.
Why do you think, before we go to Congressman Duffy, why do you think that Durbin and Graham went into that meeting with the two things that they knew the president couldn't agree to? It would increase chain migration, and, of course, there wasn't adequate funding for the wall. I mean, he said, I need this and this, then we'll do the legalization of the Dreamers. They came in and they offered things that would actually make it worse.
Well, I think you have to start somewhere, and then the president can come back with what he perceives as chain migration and make a counteroffer on it. And then there's the concern over the wall. You know, there's not a lot of support for the wall in the Senate, and, you know, it's controversial in the House, and it doesn't help where I'm from in Florida. We care about port security and Coast Guard and other things. So, you know, I think you have to put something out there to get a response from the president.
I want to play for you, Congressman Duffy, something that Bill Clinton said back in 1995. Let's watch.
All Americans, not only in the states most heavily affected, but in every place in this country, are rightly disturbed by the large numbers of illegal aliens entering our country. The jobs they hold might otherwise be held by citizens or legal immigrants. We are a nation of immigrants, but we are also a nation of laws. It is wrong and ultimately self-defeating for a nation of immigrants to permit the kind of abuse of our immigration laws we have seen in recent years, and we must do more to stop it.
Look at the bipartisan applause. That sounds like Trump, Congressman Duffy. What's going on? I had forgotten that.
I don't come on and say I agree with Bill Clinton that often, but I do tonight, Laura. I mean, this is an easy solution. I think it's great that Darren's on here as well having a conversation, and it sounds like he wants to get a deal. But the deal that was proposed is that Democrats get everything where you give legal status to Dreamers, and you give Donald Trump 10% of what he wants, which is for his wall. I mean, if we reverse that and said, well, we'll just take 10% of the Dreamers, they get to stay and get 100% of the wall, Darren would be here with his hair on fire saying, well, that's not fair. Let's cut a deal that works for the Dreamers, where we secure the border, we end chain migration, and we once and for all deal with these kids. Laura, this is about compassion and love, and Trump talks about this all the time. And the compassion and love of the Trump policy is you give certainty to the Dreamers, you end the next generation of Dreamers because you have a wall there to stop them from coming in. But not only that, it's compassionate for America because we stop the meth and the heroin and the human trafficking and drugs that come over and across our border. So this is a great policy that works for our country, for Dreamers. I think both sides could cut a deal, but you have Nancy Pelosi who's out there right now saying, I want only Dreamer legislation or a clean Dreamer bill and nothing for Donald Trump. That standoff leads us to a potential shutdown on behalf of Democrats, and I think that's wrong.
Congressman Soto, Democrats are saying a handful, that they're not going to come to the State of the Union. John Lewis, Maxine Waters, others say Donald Trump's a racist. We're not going to countenance him as president. Basically, he's not our president, and they're not coming. What does that do to forge a bipartisan deal on the Dreamers or immigration enforcement, that type of toxicity?
Well, I can't speak for my colleagues. I'll be attending and bringing an evacuee from Puerto Rico who's now here in Florida to highlight how we still don't have power down on the island in a lot of areas. But I think if the Senate can bring something over to the House, then Sean and Speaker Ryan and others will have the opportunity to be able to put their 2 cents in about what they want, and let's get a vote on the floor on it. But I think, you know, we'll all be listening to the State of the Union, at least those of us who are attending, to see if there is any reconciliation message or any additional input from
But Congressman, how do you reconcile? I don't mean to interrupt, but how do you reconcile with people who run out of a meeting, a private meeting, and their effort is to whip people into a racial frenzy about Trump? How is that operating in good faith? Trump didn't shut down negotiations. He just said, I can't do that. And they rush out and say, oh, the president's a racist. I mean, how is that going to forge a deal? That's just not good faith at all.
Well, I think they were shocked about what was allegedly said. Obviously, no one knows for sure. Maybe it would have been better to just keep that closed-minded, but they felt the need to speak out. Either way, I think we need to get past these distractions and go to what both parties want, which is help for our dreamers, help for TPS, and help for border security.
Yeah.
And I think if we can get something through the Senate to the House, let it take its course and let a bill go onto the president's desk. And if he doesn't like it, he has the power to veto it.
I think the McCall bill, that Goodlatte bill, I think that should be the bill. Push that over to the Senate. Why don't we do that? I think the House people have a better solution. But, gentlemen, it's great to see both of you.